dialectic, as we say, in the European Parliament. Then the fourth item is European Union's internet privacy regulations and what it means for the United States. Fifth is cyber war and peace, and again, we're seeing a lot of that, especially with the United States and China. Sixth point is from Ukraine to Syria. Is Obama's foreign policy doomed? Again, Obama is going to be in the eye of the storm in this particular meeting. Needless to say, American presidents, sitting presidents, never attend Bilderberg meetings, although to would-be presidents or soon-to-be elected presidents or presidential candidates have attended, as was the case with Bill Clinton back in 1991, who attended the Baden-Baden Conference, and he was introduced to the North American Free Trade Agreement for the first time at that meeting by David Rockefeller, and Rockefeller at the time asked him, theoretically, if you were to be elected president, Mr. Clinton, would you support NAFTA? And Clinton, who had no idea what NAFTA was, asked Rockefeller. It was important to him, and Rockefeller said, very important. And he said, of course I would, David. And so Rockefeller extended his hand, and he said, thank you, Mr. President. Well, the rest is history, Alex. As you know, this is a story that I go in somewhat more detail in my book, The True Story of the Bilderberg Group. Then the seventh item of 9 or 10 that I have is climate change, ethical and economic challenges ahead. Again, we'll go back to the same dead old horse, climate change. And again, it's just a metaphor for reducing the world's economy, for deindustrialization, zero growth, and we're seeing the effects of that on the world stage today.
So neo-feudalism, amazing. So going over these points again, and I want listeners to understand, Estlin really does have Bilderberg sources. We've confirmed that. So this is so important what you're hearing, that weeks ago, he's now revealing that here to us exclusively. We're very thankful that obviously, who they say is on the list, there's about 20, 30 people that sneak in, presidents, prime ministers. We're going to have our reporters there documenting that. What they claim their agenda is will be a few little speeches they give to get around the fact that this is illegal in most countries to be setting policy in secret, especially in England, but also in Denmark. And then they have their real meetings that break away. And this has come out in their minutes that have come out of the National Archives from the 67 and others. So we've been able to reverse engineer a lot of this. But Estlin has multiple sources, one of which we're aware of, that is able to get the internal minutes, I guess, from their steering committees, that they have meetings 3 times a year, at least, in Europe, England, and the U.S. One meeting in the U.S., one meeting in England, one meeting in Europe. It varies sometimes, where you have the top people pretty much hammering out what the agenda is. Then it's sent to the second tier, correct me if I'm wrong, Daniel, to have any changes parliamentary from what then goes on at the informal, pretty much voting that goes on. But big, nuke proliferation, China, Russia, how to use sanctions, how to block them, how to cut Russia's funding off, because they cut them off in Europe, making their money. They'll just do it with China. How does that happen? German nationalism of the Le Pen movement, UKIP spreading, the real Tea Party movement here that the establishment's threatened by, web takeover, and laws that Europe may pass restricting illegal NSA surveillance. What will that do here? Cyber war. I guess that's how they plan to attack, claim somebody else did it, and use that as the excuse for the takeover of the web, is their cover term, cyber war. Obama being doomed. How do they flush Obama because he can't get the agenda through? He was Bilderberg darling, as we know. Climate change or global taxes, neo-feudalism. Is that an accurate roundup of what you just said, sir?
Yes, sir, very much so. Now, as you were going through the list, I was kind of thinking to myself, what would people who are listening or who are not familiar with Bilderberg and who might be listening for the first or the second time, actually the existence of this group. Now, to most people who are not familiar with Bilderberg, this whole thing sounds crazy because, again, how do you convince people that a meeting that takes place once a year during 3 days or 3.5 days actually has such tremendous effect on world policy? And this is something, if we have a minute, I'd like to explain so that people understand that this isn't some kind of a wacky conspiracy theory, but this thing is real, and there's a way that this thing works.
Daniel, absolutely. We're going to come back. I will give you the floor in the next 6-minute segment. Then an 18-minute segment's coming up, another 6-minute, to really break this down. Folks, we're not bragging. This is major gravitas here. You're hearing what the most powerful group in the world, they don't run the world, they're trying to. They run probably half the world or more. You're hearing what's on their real agenda right now. There are major spy agencies that don't know this stuff. They're tuned in right now as well. This is hardcore info that you're getting from from the highest levels.
Clean water at home, clean water at the office, clean water on the go. The Berkey Guy has a Berkey water filtration model for anywhere you are and one that fits any budget. Thousands of satisfied customers can't be wrong. For free shipping within the U.S., go to goberkey.com or call 877-886-3653. That's 877-886-3653. Helping thousands prepare since 2005, goberkey.com.
We the people grow cotton, weave fabric, engrave ink, embed strips and fibers to protect from counterfeit and carting to a private bank, having it lent back at interest, forcing taxes to service debt. This capitalism, or was Jefferson correct when stating a central bank issuing the public currency is a greater menace to the liberties of the people than a standing army? Ted Anderson, I'm placing a free silver dollar in a book that explains our monetary system. Call for your copy, 800-686-2237. It's time to understand the system. Call 800-686-2237. That's 800-686-2237.
In the U.S., 1 in every 50 homes will have a break-in this year. Burglars call it smash and grab. Police call it robbery. We call it avoidable. We are Fake TV, a simple electronic device that can fool even professional burglars. Fake TV easily plugs into any outlet and simulates the changing colors of a television. To a burglar, it looks like someone must be home watching TV, so they'll likely move on to an easier target. At only $29.95, Fake TV costs less than a month of most alarm monitoring plans and comes with free shipping. Order your Fake TV by calling 877-5-FAKE-TV or go to faketv.com. That's 877-532-5388 or faketv.com. Fake TV, the burglar deterrent.
The human body is extraordinary. Despite all the stresses we inflict upon it, it still works hard to stay in balance. Thousands upon thousands of people rely upon Heart and Body Extract to help their body stay balanced. This excellent 100% natural herbal formula helps maintain healthy blood pressure levels, cleans arteries, promotes good circulation, balances cholesterol, and more. HB Extract, paired with healthy lifestyle choices like good nutrition and exercise, can give you a life free of pain, sickness, and fear. Recapture your youthful vitality and experience your body healing itself with the aid of HB Extract. It's extremely effective and it starts working in just days. Visit hbextract.com to learn more and to read scores of testimonials from satisfied customers. And we've never increased our price in over 10 years. That makes Heart and Body Extract as great a value now as it was the first day we sold it. A healthy heart is a happy heart. Call 866-295-5305 or go to hbextract.com.
This is Keisha Rogers, Democratic candidate for the U.S. Senate. Today is your chance to change the course of history by voting for me to kick the corrupt Obama regime out of the Democratic Party and pick up where our nation left off under a truly great president, John F. Kennedy. I'm running to break the control of Wall Street parasites over our government and over both parties by reinstating the Glass-Steagall Act. That means no more bailouts. The corrupt Democratic Party leadership doesn't want you to vote at all, as they're trying to sneak in a Wall Street millionaire who will easily lose to Wall Street Republicans like John Cornyn. This is your chance to break Texas free from that lose-lose situation. I have a program to revive the pro-growth scientific tradition of John F. Kennedy, exemplified by the space program and nuclear power. Vote today for me, Keisha Rogers, in the Democratic runoff for U.S. Senate. This is Keisha Rogers, and I authorize this message.
Paid for by Keisha Rogers for U.S. Senate.
Welcome back, my friends, to our continued coverage of Bilderberg 2014. The mainstream media they own and control is dying. They won't cover it, so we do at Infowars.com. We've got Paul Watson on the ground. Our other reporters get there tomorrow. Their flights were delayed. You've got the floor to break down how big a deal Bilderberg is. You know, just last week, one of the Bilderberg group members, we covered it last hour with Paul Watson, Daniel, bragged that they indeed are the most powerful and are setting up a world government. So we've really forced them to try to hide it in plain view. Daniel Estulin.
No matter, Alex, where you look, governments, big business, and any other institution seeking to exercise power, the key to control is secrecy. Meetings such as Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, G8, or we should say G7, Russia is no longer a member, World Trade Organization, World Economic Forum, central banks, European Union Council of Ministers, European commissioners, European Union summits, government cabinet meetings, numerous think tanks, foundations, they're always conducted behind closed doors. And the only possible reason for this is that they, the powerful people, don't want us to know what they're discussing. Now, and of course, beyond this common reluctance to actually reveal the proceedings of meetings, the secrecy principle extends to the forums and meetings themselves. By and large, we don't even know most of these meetings take place. You mentioned Jim Tucker earlier. Well, he's been doing it, God bless his soul, for since the early 1970s, I believe. And before that, it was the publication he was working for before, I can't remember.
Spotlight.
They were covering that. You know what I mean? And then I joined in 1995, and needless to say, when I found out that this organization called the Build or something or other, back in 1992, when I heard it from someone who actually had something to do with it, I laughed in his face because I thought this is impossible. Well, needless to say, it is possible because, again, by and large, we, the people, don't even know most of these meetings actually take place. You have the World Economic Forum in Davos in January, late January, February. You have the Bilderberg and G7 meetings April, May. You have the International Monetary Fund, World Bank annual conferences in September. And then you have the Trilateral Commission meetings, 3 times a year. One meeting in January or February takes place for the Americas. Then you have April, May, or March, April, for Europe, and then September, October, you have the Trilateral Commission. Asia takes place, then you have the annual meeting. Council on Foreign Relations, they have their, quarterly seminars. It's a kind of invisible international consensus emerges, and it carried over from one meeting to the next, but no one is really leading, and that's something that people have to understand. Bilderberg is not some kind of a wacky conspiracy. We have these, 4 old geezers sitting in a dark room, underground, holding hands, staring at a crystal ball, planning the world's domination, pressing buttons, and making the world go round. The world is a very complex place. No one is really leading this meeting. It works on the concept of consensus. And this consensus becomes the background, for example, for the G8 or G7 economic communiques. It becomes what, informs the International Monetary Fund when it imposes an adjustment program on countries in the third world. And it also becomes what the United States president proposes to Congress. And needless to say, it very much front and center for European elections, for the European key talking points, for the agenda items, which then, are passed on to national governments across Europe. And this is how it works. It's done through consensus. And again, you don't need to control every element of every corporation. You just need to control key levers of power, which is why the people who attend Bilderberg conferences are the movers and shakers of the world politics and economy. You have all the sitting presidents of European nations, and Canada usually attend. As I said, sitting president of the United States never comes to these meetings, but he's well represented by his minions. You have, key 50, 60 CEOs of the world's most powerful corporations from the Western world. We're talking about Amazon, we're talking about corporations such as Apple, Microsoft, GlaxoSmithKline, Beecham, from every walk of life. This IBM, needless to say, top corporate leaders are there. You're talking about key members of the world press: New York Times, Washington Post, The Economist, CNN. They're all there. Le Monde from France, a group of Prisa from Spain. You have Financial Times is there. All of these individuals, they attend on the condition that what is said is not reported in the mainstream press, because they're part of this juggernaut. So you have, the key politicians, you have key ministers, key commissioners, you have the president of the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, Federal Reserve Board, you have the chairman of the European Central Bank. So amongst these people, again, no one tells anybody what to do, but the consensus reached at these meetings go a long way in defining and deciding world policy.
That's right. When we come back in the long segment, I want to break down some of the history of it and then what's going forward, how they try to plan to block nationalist movements that I know they see as the main threat with Daniel Estulin. And I'm going to add and augment what you've just said that I totally agree with, that it's a consensus synergy where you're invited because you already agree on the global governance worldview to be run by autocrats in corporations. So we're going to talk about that on the other side. There's a consensus because all they're doing is fine-tuning a program launched 100 years ago.
We're on the march. The empire's on the run. Alex Jones and the GCN Radio Network.